The Dodgers lost another game. They lost against the Angels. It was a clunker. It was ugly. It was not fun. You could say it was worse than the loss on Sunday, and you could also argue that maybe Dave Roberts punted a little bit too early. We're going to talk about all of that and try to pretend we're happy here on this edition of All Dodgers. Coming at you live from my home studio in beautiful La Puente, California. This is the All Dodgers podcast. We hit you with some MMS. I'm feeling good because I had a little bit more rest than I had on Sunday night. Coming back from my vacation, but the Dodgers were asleep until about the 8th inning in this game. I bring in my co-host, my buddy, my pal, Jeff Snyder, the voice of reason, the guy all of you guys hate to see in the show when the Dodgers lose frustrating games like this, because he's always going to tell you, it's one loss, it's one game. But Jeff, this game was another one of those frustrating losses. It's a frustrating game, and it's one of those ones where at the end of the season, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, hey, if they lose the division by one game, okay, this game maybe not so much, more so the Sunday game, but hey, every loss is as equal when it comes to wins and losses at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. The game against the Blue Jays on Sunday, the Dodgers should have won because they played a lot better, just didn't score as many runs. And this game, they should have won because they're a better team. You know, that's so this one's frustrating in an entirely different way. It's the Angels aren't as good a team as the Dodgers, and so it's very frustrating to watch the Dodgers go out and lose to them over and over again. And yeah, I'm not going to say it's only one game today because there's now a 2-game losing streak. Yesterday there's only one game because the Dodgers literally won a series against the best team in the American League over the weekend. So they did only lose one game. Today it's a 2-game losing streak, and it's to a worse team. The fact that they can win 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays and then look so anemic against the Angels, yeah, it's frustrating and definitely no fun to watch.
Guys, we want to remind you this is a show that is presented by FanDuel. All Dodgers is part of the Bleav Network of podcasts. I am Clint Pasillas. That is Jeff Snyder. Guys, sound off in the comments. Let us know how you feel about this game. Please consider liking the show, regardless of how poorly the Dodgers played today, how early this game felt out of reach. Subscribe to the channel if you like Dodgers talk and, like us taking your opinion and kind of running with it, not just us being talking heads and telling you what we think is right, and that's the only thing that's right and all that. We want to have a conversation with people, kind of let this be a little bit of a cathartic post game, because again, it was out of hand pretty early. I mean, I felt, Yamamoto, you can kind of tell when he's going to be not on pretty early, and this is one of those games where he was not on pretty early, gives up 2 in the first. Not the best game by Dan Iasonia behind the plate, which you could always assume happens when Dan Iasonia is behind the plate. But yeah, Yamamoto is pretty bad when he's not good. Like, he is really bad, and this is his worst game as a big leaguer. Even
the most runs he's allowed.
Runs,
the game against the Padres in Korea was his worst game because he only went 1 inning. This time he lasted longer, but did give up more runs. Our buddy Jacob Brownson made the point on Twitter. I think it was him. If you know the umpire's name, there's probably not a good reason for that. And everybody's heard the name Dan Iasonia, and that's probably because he's been bad for a long time. Yeah, he was really bad. One of those runs of the first inning was on him because Mike Trout struck out looking, and instead he walked. And ultimately that ended up leading to a run. And I don't know how much that affects Yamamoto. The fact is, Yamamoto looked like he might be settling down, and then he just bombed, gave up 4 runs in the
he lost it quick.
Whatever inning, 5th inning. So it went from a 2-0 game. Like, it was looking like the story of this game was going to be seriously offense. You can't help Yamamoto out at all. He pitches another gem, and you can't help him. And ultimately, that ended up not being the storyline because Yamamoto joined the club of being bad, and then the offense tried to do stuff later. But Yamamoto had a bad game, and the command wasn't there. We saw several pitches that looked they were splitters that didn't even get to home plate. If they were fastballs, they would look like the pitches that Emmanuel Clase is being investigated for right now. Luckily, they were splitters, so you could understand why they didn't get. He didn't have command of the splitter today, and he relies on that splitter a lot. It was just a bad game for Yamamoto, and those things happen. That's where you would hope that the offense could pick him up.
Yeah.
This is a game you would hope the Dodgers would win 8-7 instead of losing 7-4.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they would always win a game 8-7 rather than 7-4, losing 7-4 or whatever. But yeah, they didn't have that same issue with left on base, runners in scoring position today. For the most part, nothing happened until late in the game when Max Muncy connected on another homer there. Of course, Shohei Ohtani broke the scoreless part of the Dodgers score, I should say. I'm saying this wrong, but he got the Dodgers off
Broke up the
the
shutout.
hook. There it is for the shutout. You know the words. Anyways, I'm trying to get to this point. Bacon Tree with the $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Bacon Tree. Love the name. Love that fruit as well, bacon. But says, Dodgers making Soriano look like Cy Young. Offense dead for 7. You push Yamamoto back one day for this and then get Conforto off this damn team. A lot of things to get off of Bacon Tree's chest or off their trunk, because it is a tree. I don't want to talk a whole lot of Conforto because we're there. Let's just end the experiment, end it.
It would be easier if Alex Call was making more of a push for playing time. But Alex Call, who one of his big selling points, his 2 selling points were plays good defense and doesn't strike out. Mm-hmm. And the first half has been true. The second half has not been true. And so he, obviously it's a tiny sample size. It's just one game, you might say. No, but unfortunately, it's not. It's 2 or 3 games that Alex Call has looked like a guy who strikes out a lot, and so he needs to fix that. But right now, I mean, we all agree on Conforto. But the alternative is, they tried to get Stephen Kwan to replace Michael Conforto. Maybe they should have got Ramon Laureano or something, but in the end, right now, it's either Alex Call remembers how to hit, or it's Ryan Ward, who, maybe is the answer.
Or it's more of waiting for the next batch of dudes to come back. Hesong Kim, Tommy Edman, who they're going to slow play. It does suck that the Padres are right on the Dodgers' asses right now. I want to talk more about that and kind of more about what the Padres did at the deadline versus what the Dodgers did at the deadline. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. There is a narrative, of course. People love to talk about Dave punting. We were able to get, Alana and I were able to get on Dodgers territory essentially a exclusive sit down with him because of the concept of punting and some of his managerial decisions. And I had him point blank explain to me why, in the postseason at least, you make these decisions where you leave a guy in or you pull him out or you take some players out. There is a good point in time to kind of look ahead to tomorrow. It's okay to be frustrated by that as well, but when it comes to punting, you look at how this ended. It felt maybe like Dave punted a little bit too early, at least in terms of taking Freddie out of the game and Andy Pages out of the game in the 6th inning, because shortly after Muncy's homer gets scored 7-3 there, 7-4, whatever it was, all of a sudden you have to pinch hit for Justin Dean, who's in Andy Pages' spot. You're not going to have Freddie Freeman later in the game. You're going to have Dalton Rushing there, who I think had an opportunity with a runner on base and did nothing with it. Did Dave punt too early or too late?
Who knows what would have happened if Pages and Freeman were still in the game? But what probably would have happened is the Dodgers would have still lost the game, and that's I don't know. Nobody knows, and that's the big issue with these. You're always just guessing, but I don't think it's unreasonable when you're down 6-0 or 7-0 in the 6th inning to say, you know what, let's get some of these guys off their feet. Let's get Justin Dean a chance to get in the game, and then it was a bummer that he had to pinch hit for him, and maybe he didn't have to. I don't know. The Justin Dean's role on this team is to play defense and run the bases. Maybe it was a situation to let him get at bat. I don't know, but I don't think it's obvious that he punted too early. I think it made sense to pull guys when he did, and ultimately, I don't think it would have changed anything. I do want. Do you see that comment from Archangel a little bit higher up?
I will look.
The Archangel,
I will
an
find
Angels
it.
fan in here, understands. Angel fan views count too. We appreciate your support, the Archangel. He says Angels winning today secures the season. Dodgers spanking. It's better than going to the playoffs. And I just want to say, how do you know what going to the playoffs feels like?
Boom, roasted. That's
Boom.
yeah, man. You know that kid had a family, or that person has a family. How long has
I
it been
doubt
since
it.
the Angels have been
I
in the
doubt it.
playoffs?
Why would
10 full seasons?
Why would anybody marry an Angels fan?
Well, I mean, you could also have like a mom and dad and brother.
No. All Angel fans are orphans.
Oh, okay. Let's just move on and get into more post-game overreactions. We have our reactions here. I wrote down different thoughts that popped into my head while this game was happening, and I probably already said it along the way here, but this loss feels much worse than yesterday. Yesterday, there was a game. There was a game that happened. Yeah, it was a frustrating game in its own right that they had 13 base runners, or sorry, 23 base runners, 13 walks, couldn't cash in more runners than the other team did. But this was one of those games where it's a consistently inconsistent team, and that's where we're seeing more of the frustration from Dave Roberts. I spoke with Fabian Ardaya of The Athletic today, asking him about salty Dave. We're seeing more salty Dave kind of come up right now because we understand he's not in any danger of losing his job, but it's also really crappy for him to see this, these same dudes not perform, not do their job. It's he has to work with what he has, and I don't know that if I don't want to put it on Yamamoto because the game shouldn't feel out of reach that early when it's at 2-0. But after the first inning, I felt like it was kind of ball game with the way the offense was kind of early. I just said a bunch of things there.
It felt like that, but also there have been plenty of games this year where it felt like that. And then in the fourth inning, the Dodgers scored a bunch of runs and knocked the guy out of the game. Who was it just a few weeks ago? Some mediocre pitcher shut the Dodgers down for 3 innings, and then he didn't even make it through the fourth. I can't remember which game it was, who it was, but it happens all the time. That's why I don't let myself get high on a couple innings or low on a couple innings, and so yeah. By the time they hadn't scored anything through 7 innings, then it's like, okay, this is one of those games. And even if they do put up 4 runs in the 8th, it's going to be too little too late. The reason I agree with you that today's loss felt worse than yesterday's is because, like I said yesterday, if the Dodgers play that exact game as they played yesterday, every game of a season, just going with and just have neutral luck, the Dodgers win 150 games in that season. Because when you get 23 base runners, that's a good game. Yes, it sucked that they lost. They scored fewer runs than the Blue Jays, so they lost. But there were plenty of things to like about that game. So in that way, that one was easier to handle. Because if the Dodgers play 162 games the way they played tonight, they're gonna, win 60 of them. And that's not enough. 60 wins means 102 losses, and that's how you finish in last place, unless you happen to be in the same division as the Rockies, in which case you hang out with the Giants in 4th place. But this is tonight's game was not an example of how you win a baseball game. Yesterday's game, in a lot of ways, was an example of how to win a baseball game. Hey, let's get a crap ton of base runners. It was just that they didn't get it done with runners in scoring position yesterday. The one thing, and Eric Karros even said same thing I said last night. He said on the broadcast tonight. I said 20 things. He said 10 things. He said yesterday's game there was 10 things that if one of them goes differently, the Dodgers win this game. Yeah. The answer is probably 15. If I said 20 and Karros said 10, it's probably 15. But that's #math, baby. But today there weren't. Like you could say if Alex Freeland gets a base hit instead of hitting into a double play, that could have changed the game, because then Alex Call, even if he strikes out for the second out, and then if Shohei Ohtani comes up, hits the home run, suddenly there's bases loaded instead of leading off an inning. So, that's one thing that could have changed the trajectory of the game. But even that would have made it a 7-5 game, and they still would have had, so then they would have to still do more with Muncie's homer later. There's not that one thing you can point at Whereas yesterday there was 20 things you could say. If one of those things goes differently, they win. So yeah, this game was more frustrating in that way because it was just a bad baseball game for the Dodgers.
Yeah, we got a super chat, $5, $4.99 from 300 GJW. Thank you very much, and I love this super chat one because it's a super chat. We appreciate people who support us and support the show, the brand. This is completely independent. I don't know why I took it down so early, but completely independent Dodgers talk here on YouTube. So you guys supporting us does directly support us, not other people. But anyways, the point is really not much to say at this point. Same issues. Just need to hope that they get some life by the postseason. And life is one way of saying it. I just need to see some consistency. Like I spent a good chunk of a topic on Dodgers territory today talking about how good the starting pitching was, and then Yamamoto goes out there and puts up gives up the most runs in a start in his big league career. And then bullpen does its job to keep the game there, but then the offense wasn't doing enough because when one guy gets a hit, the guy behind him isn't driving him in or moving the runner forward or whatever it is. It's just a very disjointed effort from the team too often. I don't want to keep overusing the idea of misfiring or whatever, but it is kind of a misfire, and it's a random misfire. Our automotive people will understand a PO 300 here. That's kind of what they got. It's a random misfire, and we're trying to figure out what the problem is. But the car's going to be in the shop for a while, and hopefully it's ready to go by October, I guess. Another super chat. Quickly, $1.99 from Noah. Appreciate you, Noah. Is Jeff drinking water from our tears?
I've got a nice reverse osmosis system here at home, so I got nice pure ice cubes and pure water.
Man, what are those people over at All Dodgers paying you, huh?
Oh, it tastes good. Oh, I got this long before I moved to this clunker of a job. But we also had a comment earlier.
I'll get Richie after.
From TS Aqua. Says, you guys tell him 750 pounds combined with both of you. And I just want to compliment TS Aqua because you can always tell a keen, insightful, intelligent mind when he jumps straight to the fat jokes. But also, I want to ask Clint. He says 750 pounds combined. Do you really only weigh 130? Get it? That's pretending that I'm even fatter than I am.
Yeah.
Because guess what, TS Aqua? I'll always be funnier than you. I'll always have better fat jokes than you. When you grow up fat, you know all the good fat jokes. You do not have the good fat jokes, my friend. Yeah. So thank you for trying. Thank you for watching. Be sure to keep watching every day and telling us how fat we are and lining our big fat pockets with your crybaby money. Sending in a super chat. We'll put it up on the screen, dummy.
Yeah. Well, exactly. 100%. You want your fat joke on the screen? Put it in a super chat. Beyond that, $9.99 from our friend Richie Flores. Appreciate you, Richie. So since the Kershaw 3,000 strikeout game, they've lost 8 games in the standings. He sees a very tired ball club. Dodgers, depending on the ifs, again, at the deadline, are more so the guys coming back from injuries. And if this guy works out, whatever. Giving the Padres hope, and that's dangerous. And that's a good, appreciate the comment there, the super chat from Richie, and that is a good segue into one of the next talking points. We got to look at the bigger picture for the Dodgers. And, it's just one game. It's just one loss. You could say that until you're blue in the face, but it's also just one win, another win for the Padres, and suddenly they are one game behind the Dodgers, and they meet up. These two teams face off this weekend for 3, and then the following weekend for 3 more. You could argue that the season could be decided in the next 2 weeks. It's less likely, but Dodgers still favorites on FanDuel. If you look at the latest division odds, still minus 600, but Padres keep getting closer. Padres at plus 390 to win the division. Things are getting tighter, Jeff, and it's going to make for really good baseball cinema this weekend if the Dodgers are either down or somehow they end up tied in the, I guess they couldn't end up tied. Maybe.
Yeah, they could.
Could they? I guess they could. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Next week, the Padres play one more game than the Dodgers. But yeah, does that really start to worry you? We're trying to play the long game here and understanding like you don't lose your division, you don't lose the World Series in just one game in the regular season, but they add up and the Padres keep getting closer, and they got better at the trade deadline to go back into that. But just general thoughts about how close the Padres are right now.
Yeah, you know how I would describe the Dodgers division lead right now? It's just one game. How do you like that?
This sort of. That's good, guys. Guys, hit that thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up for that because he just trolled us all.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely not. I definitely preferred when the Dodgers were up by 9 games. That was more fun for me. I preferred when the Dodgers were winning a lot of games and the Padres were losing a lot of games. That is more fun for me too. I do still genuinely believe, and obviously I'm biased. I'm wearing a Dodger hat and a Dodger shirt and doing a Dodgers podcast. I am biased, but I do believe that the Dodgers are a better team than the Padres. And part of my evidence for that is that with all that's going on, the Dodgers are still a game ahead of the Padres. So far this year, they're one game better than the Padres. I believe that they're even more better than one game. I think that's actually a correct usage of more better. More better than the stats say. Their betterness is understated by the record. And so, yeah, I do believe, honestly, I believe that the Dodgers are going to win the next 2 games against the Angels because the Dodgers are clearly a better team than the Angels, despite what we've seen in the 4 games against the Angels so far this year. I think Dodgers are going to win the next 2 games against the Angels. Hopefully the Giants could pull one of them out, and then the Dodgers go into the series with the Padres up by 2 games, and then you win 2 out of 3 against them, and suddenly you're up by 3 games, and you start building it back up. I know I'm biased, and it might just be Dodger colored glasses. But one of the things I was saying on the Discord tonight is over the last decade, this Dodgers team almost always proves me right with my optimism. Like we've had so many times this season between my old podcast and this one, as I'm reading the YouTube comments and people saying Dodgers are going to be out of first by the end of the weekend or whatever. And every single one of those deadlines that Doomers have put on it has passed and not come true. And I joked in the Discord tonight that the Doomers t-shirt should just say move the goalposts and stay pissed, because that's what people have had to do. Because so far, every single one of these Dodgers are going to be out of first place by this date has not happened. And maybe it is going to happen this time. Maybe they will be out of first place by the end of the Padres series this weekend. Maybe they'll be out of first place by the end of this Angels series. It could happen. But so far it hasn't. And it's definitely more fun to like your favorite team. For me, I'm not going to tell anybody else how to fan.
Yeah.
But I believe for me, it's more fun for me to like my favorite team than to hate my favorite team.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Dodgers. I'm annoyed at the Dodgers. I'm not disappointed right now. I think they're just playing like absolute ass. Again, you have the consistently inconsistent play. Every game in which Mookie Betts has appeared as a right fielder, the Dodgers have lost now. So just want to throw that in there, that Mookie Betts moving back to right field isn't the answer. That's just for me. But yeah, it's frustrating. It sucks. It's not the end of the world because I have no feelings. I feel nothing. Everybody's pain is my joy or something like that. But when where it gets, I don't know, I guess I'll get back on track here. Again, where it gets more worrisome and where I am starting to raise my level of concern is in the fact that the Padres got better and the Dodgers did less work to fill those holes that they have. And obviously we're going to talk more Padres as that series comes up here on the channel this week. But
the Padres also had a lot more holes they had to fill.
Yeah. But still, the fact is they did. The Dodgers had arguably, the left field hole, maybe a second base hole. People already trying to send Alex Freeland to the moon. The kid's trying his best right now. He's not the answer, and he's not going to be the dude who eventually ends up being, the everyday second baseman come October. That's going to be Kim or more likely Edman. But to have got somebody that, not just a fourth outfielder, is probably a little bit better, maybe a fourth outfielder and, a starting outfielder, because Alex Call was not acquired to be a starting outfielder. But, hey, Padres got Mason Miller, they got Ramon Laureano, they got Ryan O'Hearn, and they seem to be playing a better brand of baseball right now. That's obviously an understatement because they are winning games and the Dodgers are not. I think I could shoehorn in here Pat Dwyer's $10 super chat earlier. Thank you very much, Pat. Again, we come back to the if these players come back for the Dodgers and get better, they're going to need one or two of Edman, Kike Hernandez, or Kim to produce down the stretch and into October. Kike is on the mend. He's doing baseball activities. He was getting some groundwork or some work at third base, ground balls at third base over the weekend. And that's somebody where immediately we know Kike in the postseason can fill any of those holes because the dude is just an absolute animal, sold his soul for rock and roll, and he sold his soul also to play postseason baseball. But, he's saying, to complete Pat's thought here, Alex Call and this version of Conforto are not starters on a World Series winning team, and I agree with all of that. And there's more reliance on dudes coming back, which, as we're sitting here right now, does make me uncomfortable. But that's also baseball. We don't know. We don't have Biff's handbook to know what tomorrow's score is going to be or whatever.
Unfortunately, yeah. And guys are probably coming back, and we talked yesterday about the bullpen, and we got news today that, Michael Kopech faced hitters, and, he's going out on rehab soon. Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott are both coming back. Like, all three of those guys are probably coming back this month. And then we'll see, can they be good? That's the other big question mark. But unfortunately, that's the question mark with every relief pitcher, and like we talked about yesterday, I would have loved to have Mason Miller. I don't think that the Dodgers had what it would take to get Mason Miller in a trade. But the other guys who got traded, maybe the Dodgers could have got them. But every single one of them, I don't know about Duran with the Phillies. I don't know if he has had a clunker since he went over, but I know David Bednar and who else did the Yankees get? They got Bednar. They got three guys, and all three of them were lousy in the same.
One guy was already sent down to AAA, wasn't he?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Whatever. This isn't a Yankees podcast. If you want that, go check out Pinstripe Territory.
My point is that all relievers are volatile, and if you go by pure stuff, I think Tanner Scott has as good a chance of being a lights out reliever in October as basically anybody who the Dodgers could have traded for at the trade deadline. Will he do it? I don't know, but I don't know if anybody else would either. On the offensive side, the left field thing, I definitely understand the frustration that, and we were pushing hard. We wanted Stephen Kwan. The Dodgers wanted Stephen Kwan. John says Kwan would have been worth whatever we had to pay, maybe. And like I said yesterday, until we know what they actually would have had to pay to get him, I don't know if I agree with that or not, because I don't believe, I think part of the reason that we do have a World Series contender every year is that the Dodgers don't overpay at the trade deadline in ways that they don't want to. They've definitely overpaid at times, but they keep the core, whatever. I remember so many times people, one guy in particular was so mad at me when I was against the idea of the Dodgers trading Alex Verdugo for relief pitching help. And then eventually the Dodgers traded Alex Verdugo, and instead of a relief pitcher, they got Mookie Betts, and it's like anybody you trade for a reliever is somebody you can't trade for a MVP contender later, and so you always got to balance that stuff. Obviously, Stephen Kwan isn't a reliever. He's a great outfielder. Dodgers would definitely be a better team if Stephen Kwan was playing left field instead of Michael Conforto. There's my hot take.
Very hot take right there. Mr. Classic, I agree with this. Mr. Classic saying I'd 100% given up rushing for Kwan because as much as, if Dalton Rushing works out and eventually becomes, the everyday catcher and pushes Will Smith to third or first base, that would be real nice. But guess what? They don't even have faith in him to move and play, set his foot anywhere on the grass to play like left field right now. He is not helping this team win this year. He's only helping. Dalton Rushing is only helping Will Smith get maybe one more day off every 8 to 10 days or something like that. So if you can get somebody who was going to plug in and be your everyday left fielder or an everyday outfielder and give yourself, a chance to have a better lineup. And I'm not saying it was only going to be Dalton Rushing.
And that's the thing. If the Guardians had said, we'll give you Stephen Kwan for Dalton Rushing, Andrew Friedman would have driven Dalton Rushing to the airport himself. But what it probably was Rushing.
We lost him. That's a great look
Top
there.
pitching prospects, you
Sorry,
know.
yeah, we lost you there for a second,
Oh,
and it
sorry.
paused on a beautiful face. We
Nice.
appreciate that.
Every face I have is beautiful.
Recomplete the thought again for us.
It probably would have been Dalton Rushing and Zaire Hope and a couple top pitching prospects or something like that, you know. And so where that's why I say until we actually know what was on the table,
Yeah.
I can't say whether I think they should have done it or not because, you know, yeah, Zaire Hope may not ever play for the Dodgers, but if not, it'll be because the Dodgers used him in a big trade and, you know, give up a bunch of trade pieces, limits your chances to do trades in the offseason when there aren't as many premiums on trades and stuff when you can actually do trades that are beneficial for both teams. All those things you gotta
when Stephen
you
Kwan
gotta weigh all
becomes a
those
Dodger
things.
this coming offseason. Yeah.
And the fact is, you know, when Tommy Edman comes back, maybe he does just slot into center field, and that's the replacement for Michael Conforto. Andy Pajes moves to a corner, and you know, but there's, you know, it's a lot easier to say as long as it works in October. That's all that matters when you're up by 9 games. Now that it is it's just 1 game in the division. I understand people being frustrated by that line of thinking. I don't agree with people who say Dodgers might not even make the postseason. They're going to make the postseason.
Well, they're going to make the postseason,
you know? And they're probably even going to win the division, you know, and probably even going to be one of the top 2 seeds. But right now,
that one I feel less
after a game,
about.
And after a game like tonight, I understand why people, you know, feel less optimistic about that because, yeah, this team tonight isn't good the way they played tonight, but the talent wise, they should be better than that. And so I have to believe they will be.
We had a $4.99 super chat from Ray Soto. Appreciate Ray for supporting the show, saying way too many ifs. This is now the sliding Mets and Chicago Cubs. I haven't looked at how bad they're doing. I know the Mets have been tough, have had tough sledding of late. I have not looked at the Cubs even slightly. But focusing on that first part, you know, putting on your GM hat, like, was this team, are they relying on too many ifs, you know, to be a good contending team, and challenge for a World Series?
I think when you build a team like they built, you have to because the alternatives are giving up on Conforto. I'm totally fine with, you know, but like if we're talking bullpen, it means giving up on Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates and, you know, or whoever it is. Like it's giving up on, I mean, it would have meant giving up on Mookie Betts. I mean, at the trade deadline, Mookie Betts was one of the holes that the Dodgers needed to fill.
Yeah.
And so far, that hole has been filled by Mookie Betts over the last 5 games. And, you know, and imagine
a couple hits tonight, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if you could have traded for good Mookie Betts at the trade deadline, you know? But obviously that hasn't worked with Conforto. Conforto wasn't as good as Mookie Betts to start with and hasn't done anything since then.
Yeah.
But overall, you kind of, with the way this team is built, you kind of have to dance with the one that brought you or dance with the one that you brought, however you want to word it.
Yeah. Honestly, I understand fans' frustration. Like, if I was on the other side watching us talk about it, I'd be annoyed at us always saying the same type of thing where it's like, you know, yeah, you leave the dance with the people that you showed up to the dance with. This team, this front office put a lot of time and money into this team in the last offseason to make it a very, very good baseball club. Even with as bad as they've been, they are still a very good baseball club. They're just playing really, really crappy right now. Very inconsistent baseball over the last month and change. I have faith that they will eventually figure something out. I don't know if it's one of those things where, you know, you call some sort of closed door meeting, just everybody huddle around like, what the hell is going on with you people? Like, what is this? What are you guys trying to do? And you know, everybody have a shot about it and a group huddle and cry and, you know, go out and play better baseball. It worked for them last September where Dave challenged Walker Buehler. Hey, we need you. You know, they just learned Tyler Glasnow's not coming back. We need you. I think we're getting into that territory where we're starting to see Doc kind of openly criticize some players and some moves. He criticized Shohei Ohtani yesterday. That's massive. We're we're starting to see that happen where I think, just the status quo isn't going to work for this team anymore. I don't know that I said anything valuable there, but that's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and Alex actually makes a point in the chat that I agree with, which is interesting because Alex and I don't often agree on things. But, he says if they come back healthy, if they perform to their standards, if they decide to play hard on any given night, too many ifs. Friedman bet on the wrong guys this past offseason. I don't agree with all the words. I don't think it's about not playing hard enough. But I do think if the Dodgers do flame out this year, it will be because they bet on the wrong guys this past offseason and not because they didn't do enough at the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. Part of dancing with the one who brought you is deciding who's going to bring you to the dance. And those decisions are made in the offseason. And very uncharacteristically, the Dodgers splurged on the bullpen this last offseason. And there's a reason they don't often do that, because relievers are the most volatile people in the entire world. And that's what we've seen so far this year. Maybe it's going to work out. Maybe Tanner Scott's going to be good in October. Mm-hmm. I do believe he will be. I don't know. Kirby Yates, I'm less optimistic about, but also he's only a 1-year deal. And so, I'm also not as stressed about that one. But, in the end, it's the team they built in the offseason. Mm-hmm. If they flame out, it'll be because they didn't build quite the right team with Conforto, with even Teoscar. As much as happy as we all were to bring him back, we're going to need him to play like 2024 Teoscar if the Dodgers are going to win something this October.
Yeah, and it's funny too, like you mentioned, being uncharacteristic for this front office to go out and spend on relievers. Chances are they wouldn't have had to spend if most of their bullpen or most of their arms weren't injured, but they entered the winter with the expectation that Brusdar Graterol was going to have surgery. Kyle Hurt was out. River Ryan was out. Gavin Stone was out. Who's the other really bad one? Michael Grove was going to miss, all or most of the season potentially or whatever. That's the reason they went out and spend instead of doing, what they usually do and find a way to use their internal guys. So far they haven't worked out. The hope is if things work out the way we want, they will eventually, Tanner Scott will be that guy on the bump, to save the game, to collect the final out for this team or whatever. But I would say if we're talking about, betting or whatever, at some point, you got no one to hold them, no one to fold them. And I will agree with a lot of people here. And I will use Drew's comment here. I think it's time to cut your losses and fold them on Michael Conforto. He's saying, even now, addition by subtraction, if you do cut Mike Conforto, and not that he was directly related to anything about this game, but I think it's just a vibes thing for me. Show the fan base you care and get rid of the guy that I think fans hate the most.
Yeah, I want them to get rid of Conforto because he's bad at baseball, not to show fans anything. But in the end, whatever reason, I don't really care the reason. But I am ready to give Ryan Ward a shot. Somebody this morning, I forget who it was, maybe might have been Jeff Spiegel, made the point on Twitter that James Outman had a higher OPS in AAA this year than Ryan Ward. And then somebody did point out that he got there in a different way. Ward has much better contact rates and stuff. And, that was Outman's big problem in the big leagues, is that turns out he just can't make contact with major league pitching. And so maybe Ryan Ward would be better, but there have been so many guys who tore it up in AAA for the Dodgers and then came to the big leagues and did nothing. I'm just in 2021, we had Zach Rex and DJ Peters and Luke Raley and, all these names, Billy McKinney, and, names that just give people PTSD.
Andy Burns. Don't forget Andy Burns.
Andy Burns, then the alligator arms guy, who I always forget his name.
Eddie Alvarez is the Olympic dude.
The Olympic guy. Yeah. But the guy who didn't stretch at second base and cost the Dodgers that same game that the umpire cost on the Darren Ruff check swing.
Don't remember that one.
Sheldon Noisy.
Oh, Sheldon Noisy.
Yeah.
KBO legend.
So plenty of guys who have played really well in AAA for the Dodgers and then done nothing in the big leagues. But Ryan Ward deserves a chance, especially since what are you losing? It's not like I hate the phrase "it couldn't be worse" because it can almost always be worse. But in the case of Michael Conforto, I'm not saying that over the next month, Ryan Ward, if you played both of them, Ryan Ward would have better numbers than Michael Conforto. I think he probably would. I definitely think that Ryan Ward wouldn't have significantly worse numbers than Michael Conforto has had so far this year.
Yeah.
And that's what we're comparing it to. So yeah, give Ryan Ward a chance now. And it's straight up. I know he's not on the 40-man roster. Guess what? Easy way to make that spot on the 40-man roster. DFA Michael Conforto. It's that easy.
And again, this is where I'm like, the mechanic in me is okay changing parts to see if it fixes going back to the misfire. When you have a misfire in a car, an easy diagnosis or easy way to check it is you swap the coil packs and you see if that misfire moves from cylinder 1 to cylinder 3. Well, it was a bad coil pack. Maybe Michael Conforto was a bad coil pack. And for all my non-automotive people, you won't understand the reference. But I think you could understand it enough. We got a super chat from J.Y. Kim to shift gears slightly, but $5 super chat. Appreciate you very much for the support here. They are a self-proclaimed baseball newbie and asking, do we really think Ha-Seong Kim is better than Alex Freeland? Thinking that Clint, gave a rather reserved assessment after seeing Kim play more. I think the jury is still out on both. I haven't, especially after being on vacation and away from watching the team for 3 of the games, I haven't seen enough of Alex Freeland to know whether or not I like him or dislike him on the field daily. I saw enough Ha-Seong Kim when he was playing consistently after Muncy went down to be like, okay, those are those giant holes in his swing that we were kind of alerted about heading out of spring training and all that. And then he came up and was hitting well. But still, for me, jury's out on both of those dudes. I like the idea of Alex Freeland being like a born and bred Dodger or whatever. But you could say the same with Kim because he hasn't played anywhere else when it comes to Major League Baseball. And he grew up a Dodger fan.
That's why he came to the Dodgers, right? So
yeah, if both of them work out, that means even less space for Michael Conforto. So we should all hope for that.
There's things that Kim brings to the table that Freeland doesn't. Kim is faster. Mm-hmm. Defensively, I think they're probably similar quality, even if they get there in slightly different ways. Freeland has a better arm. Kim might have more range. I don't know. But I like that Freeland's a switch hitter. Kim, his swing got really, really ugly there for a little while before the injury. And maybe it was because of the injury, maybe not. We'll see when he comes back healthy. I'm still relatively high on both of them, but I'm also relatively low on either of them being a huge impact player for the Dodgers this October.
Yeah, they should be like the 13th guys, not one of the 9 dudes that this team has to rely on. And I saw somebody else mentioning in the chat, or maybe it was Pat Dwyer super chat, talking about the importance of Kike Hernandez. Like, what happens if Kike doesn't do another one of those October runs that we know and love so dearly? Then we might be kind of boned. We really might. But
and that's one of my biggest concerns, because I don't believe nearly as much as a lot of people do in the postseason superpowers. I think that I do.
Don't upset the baseball gods.
I do believe that Kike, his explanation makes sense. His ADHD, he's able to focus more in the postseason, but still that gives you a bump from where you are. And I think Kike every year is becoming a worse and worse baseball player. And he's been hurt for so long that a bump, even if he plays better in October, is that actually going to be good? And I don't know the answer to that. And I'm not as confident as a lot of people in that, I guess.
Yeah, that's just, that's hope right there. That's just good old fashioned dumb sports hope right there. He's done it. Why can't he do it again? Sometimes they don't. I don't want to bring back old memories and Freddie and Mookie being bad for a couple of postseasons, but we'll probably leave on these 2 thoughts here. So Richie, also with another $1.99 super chat. Thank you very much, Richie Flores, saying the only thing stopping the Dodgers is themselves, and I can kind of agree with that sentiment because they're just not playing well. They're not playing consistent, but the odds are in their favor when you do look at FanDuel tomorrow. The money line is at minus 172 for the Dodgers, with Emmett Sheehan on the bump against Tyler Anderson at plus 144. And I'd be lying if I knew exactly what I was talking about there, but I know minus means the Dodgers are favored. So I like the idea of the Dodgers being favored, and as long as you win the series, we're going to feel good. You got to win 2 more.
Yep. And also over on Fangraphs, where it's not just betting odds, but it's actual, they run simulations. The Dodgers are still 81.6% likely to win the division, 99.7% to make the playoffs, and still have by far the highest World Series chances, 19.3% chance. Next highest is the Phillies at 12.7%. And that's based on simulations with the actual players on the actual teams after the trade deadline, factoring injuries, all that stuff. Obviously, can't factor in future injuries because we can't see in the future, unfortunately. But I just want to touch on one other thing that I've seen a few people mentioning in the chat about Justin Dean. Justin Dean is not going to be a replacement for Michael Conforto. That's not going to be his role. He was called up to be a late inning defensive replacement and a pinch runner. He runs fast. He plays good defense. He has hit decently in AAA this year. It's the first time in his pro career that he has hit even decently. He's 28 years old. He's not a prospect. He is a guy who has like Liam Neeson before him, a very particular set of skills. You hit a ball, he will find it and he will kill it. You put him on the bases, he will run fast. If Justin Dean was playing every day, he would be hitting at least as poorly as Michael Conforto. Justin Dean is not going to be a major league hitter. That's not his role in this team. That's why he replaced Esteury Ruiz on the roster and not somebody who's expected to hit. Because defense does matter. And we talked about the other night. When suddenly you have a defense in the late innings of Alex Call in left field, Justin Dean in center field, and Andy Pages in right field for late inning defense, it's like, hey, this is actually a good defensive outfield. And you kind of need that when you're up 4-3 late in the game or whatever. And you hope, and that's why Justin Dean was in the game, and which meant that then they didn't have whoever it was, Teo or whoever, to take that at bat against the Blue Jays, because defense is more important. You just hope that Blake Treinen doesn't throw the 2 worst pitches of his life. But Justin Dean is not going to replace Michael Conforto, and we wouldn't be happy if he did.
Yeah, they're just trying to find this year's what's his name, Kevin Kiermaier, somebody you could put in for late game defense, maybe a little bit of speed. Not to say that Justin Dean is a platinum gold glove, platinum glove winner or whatever, but he's definitely better than some of the options they have in the outfield. But, not much more to say about this one. It's another loss. Got to go out there and beat him tomorrow, and then beat him after, and then recharge on Thursday's off day, and then go give the Padres hell over the weekend back home in LA. But that's about it, guys. We appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Monday. Good crowd in on the stream. We'll be back tomorrow here with the post game. I will be doing the post game with Alana Rizzo on Dodgers territory, and then some form of the 3 heads you see on All Dodgers will be doing a version of a post game tomorrow. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, supporting us on the show, all that kind of stuff. We appreciate the heck out of you. If you're looking for a different way to support the show, do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/realfrg, or click the join button here down below us here on the YouTube. Our most popular tier is the $5 tier, where you get access to our Discord server, where we're talking, or in this case, this day and age, complaining a whole lot about the Dodgers all game long, all day long, all that kind of stuff. So do check it out. Directly supports us, and we're having our next game watch party this Friday, but you have to be a supporter and you have to be on Discord to watch the game and complain about the game live in real time with all of us. What else do I got to say? Thank you to our mods for doing a great job. Thank you to Jeff.
Good job.
I'm back.
Only
baby.
took you 2 tries, baby.
I'm back. 50% of the time, it works every time. Thank you to Jeff for hanging out with me. That's about it. See you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.